What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today, and my stories are of RPG horror stories from the popular subreddit. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to the stories right now. Why I no longer play D&D with my brother. Seems as my last post about a particularly horny bard and a gnoll blew up. Yes! Oh my god! This is the same player that talked about the mom being the horny bard. Oh my god, I'm excited! Okay, let's see what this is about. I'm so excited. I've decided to write a sequel story about the true problem player of my campaign, my brother, the sorcerer. This story will be more bullet points because the last time I tried to write the story, I ended up writing a long recap about my entire campaign, and no one wants to read that. Let's keep the horror relevant. Twice he tried to split the party with the intent they would never rejoin the party. He wanted to finish up the entire plot of the campaign solo and claim all the rewards for himself. He once randomly decided mid-session he would leave to go start up a Destiny raid without telling anyone. Splitting up the party is one crime that I can probably give a bit of a pass to that guy. But to completely abandon your D&D game to go do something else, like bruh, if you want to go do something else, just go do something else. Let the DM know, hey, I won't be showing up for today, and go do your Destiny raid. What the hell? Almost any time the party would come up with a plan, he would wait until the very last moment to sabotage said plan with the intent of putting everyone in danger. He would constantly try to get NPCs into arguments and demand I roleplay these arguments as a sort of a test. Oh, family makes things so complicated. Oh, I feel for you, OP. I feel for you. Despite being a spellcaster, he would never cast spells. He would only ever fight if he could use the paladin's magic sword, despite only having 7 strength. Okay, yeah, clearly the player is not taking things seriously whatsoever. If you have spells that you can use to help your party members, you should probably use the spells. Or hey, play a different subtype of sorcerer that actually lets you melee. Is there a subclass of sorcerer that lets you melee? I'm pretty sure there is. There has to be, right? When his character eventually died, eaten alive by a giant hyena, he threatened to quit if he wasn't resurrected. After I let him make a deal with the devil to bring his character back, he decided he no longer wanted to play his character anymore, and instead wanted to play as Greg Heffley from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. When I did not allow this, he proceeded to fake amnesia for the rest of the campaign. When his character caught a leech on his leg, he insisted he should be able to burn it off with burning hands. When I reminded him the spell was a magic flamethrower, he said none of it was real and he was casting it anyway, burning his junk off in the process. Okay, that's actually kind of funny. Typically, I'd be like, DM, you should probably not be that mean to the player. But I mean, if they were warned that burning hands is indeed, which it is basically a flamethrower, you don't need it for a bug. Seriously. Okay, that's kind of funny. And finally, when the party joined up with the BBEG, he decided he wanted to burn down his wooden fort and say the party did it. When I asked him for his reason in character, he said, I have none. I'm just bored, stop railroading me. And that's it. I know this story wasn't well written or funny like the last story. I tried, but I just went on a tangent that wasn't fun to read. So I just wrote what was relevant. I have none, I'm bored, stop railroading me. The DM is not railroading you. I'm assuming the DM is not railroading you. They're just trying to find out your reason for why you did it. You get to interact in this world, and the DM is actively trying to get you involved in this world, and instead you decide you want to be a dickhead. And even though the mom being a horny bard story was a lot funnier, I mean, it's still important to talk about the problem players. Mom was not much of a problem player, but you know, it was more of a interesting storyline, I guess. But the brother clearly is a problem player. The brother is definitely a dickhead, and their behavior should not be excused in the slightest. Monsterhearts 2. I got kicked from an LGBTQ-friendly game that had been running for 7 months for coming out as a demisexual because it is heteronormative aphobia. For those who don't know, Monsterhearts is a teen drama PBTA played by the post-game, told through a supernatural lens, ALA, Buffy, Teen Wolf, and Twilight. It has a particular emphasis on LGBT+ characters, even having rules for characters who are asexual or otherwise don't experience sexual attraction like most people. Our cast, fake names, is myself playing the witch, formerly the mortal, who was a spectrum, Damien, our DM, and that guy of the story, You, who I was friends with before we started this game, playing the werewolf, Lily the Infernal, and Angus the Fae, formerly the Hollow, was present but mostly irrelevant to the story. We'd been playing the game since last year and everything had been great. We recently finished our first major arc and were kinda in between sessions, so to speak, when everything went down. At the end of the last arc, the werewolf had broken up in character with the Infernal due to them starting to use magic again as a coping mechanism with all the problems going on around them. The werewolf had helped my mortal escape a toxic relationship with a cult leader BBEG and turned my bitter wrath into a weapon as the witch. Fast forward to last night, we're playing a prom session, and the werewolf and my witch go to the dance together to make the Infernal jealous. Now everything had been going so smoothly for my character, so I decided to complicate his life by complicating his sexuality. While our characters dance to catch the Infernal's attention, Damien calls for her to turn someone on against the Infernal and to shut someone down, the alternate role against Ace characters, against my witch. But I decided to introduce my character's newly discovered complication in his sexuality, and I say that everything the werewolf helped him through made him see her in a new light and discover he may not be all the way asexual like he previously thought, and that she should roll the same against both of us. I mean, as long as the player ran through these changes and this, I guess, change in sexuality, I guess this sort of game values sexuality more than anything. As long as the OP ran it by the DM and the DM is perfectly okay with that, then I think it's fine. I don't know how open and free it is, right? I'm thinking like in D&D 5e, if somebody would tell me, like if a player told me, hey DM, I now have AC of 18 when before I had AC of 15, I'll probably get a little suspicious and be like, how do you have that? What happened? If it's like equipment and stuff, then it's perfectly fine. Honestly, I can't be blamed for it. But if it's kind of out of nowhere and gives me a surprise like mid-combat or mid-battle, yeah, I'm probably going to be a little bit... I don't know if this thing even has battles, but I'm assuming if you're rolling against stats, you want to make sure the rolls are fair, so... Because whichever system you use, as long as the mechanics stay consistent, then everything keeps fair. But if suddenly, I don't know, where you have to roll higher or lower or whatever, then it feels a little bit irregular and lacks the consistency. Consistency is very important in mechanics. If you can constantly change things on the flip-flop, then it sort of makes the game not fun. Anyway, I hope nothing went bad. At first, Damien laughs it off as me trying to deflect away from a move that could be bad, and just comments that sexualities don't work that way, and that if you're asexual, you are and nothing can change about that. That's what I mentioned. I used to consider myself asexual even into my 20s, and more recently discovered it was more complicated than that, and now I'm a demi. So I can at least firsthand that people who once considered themselves asexual can discover they were wrong later in life. Damien absolutely flips out at this point, ranting about how demisexuality doesn't exist and just bullshit heteronormative aphobia made up so bigots can try to backpedal on their sexuality after coming out and later claim they're basically straight. Before I can argue back, he kicks me from the server. The OP probably should have mentioned to the DM ahead of the session saying, hey, so I was thinking for my character to go through this. Just make sure, run through it. Because, I mean, if it's just like a change of characteristic like sexuality, like self-discovery, I think it's perfectly fine. People self-discover about things they like and don't like all the time, so it should be fine. But if the conflict is on a specific change, like to demisexuality instead of asexuality, I mean, that's a whole other conversation at that point, right? Because I feel like it's kind of a surprise for the DM, and I feel like this situation probably could have gotten better if they would just talk it ahead of time in DMs or something, right? That's what I feel. A little later, I get a text from Yui telling me he continued his rant against my sexuality, and when she argued against it, he kicked her too. Then this morning, Lily messaged me telling her that Angus left the game and won't be returning till the next week, and if you wanted, we could try to get a game together with someone else as a GM, which we'll be doing session 0 on next Friday. If the game is all about like self-discovery of your sexuality and stuff, I think it'd be kind of important to be open to that. I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like having asexuality, like I guess demisexuality, is an important mechanical factor, and having characters discover their own self-identity is an important mechanical factor. Then you probably should allow the players to have that important mechanical factor of self-discovery, whether it be asexual, demisexual, or what have you. Anyway, I feel like at the end of the day, the DM shouldn't have freaked out like this, right? Like before you have a freak out or a meltdown, the first thing you should probably do is go to the DMs and talk to the player, be like, hey, hi, how's it going? Maybe they can find a common ground, understanding, maybe there's some sort of previous trauma with it. I don't know what's going on, but most of the things like this that can be solved and resolved by communication instead of freaking out and screaming everywhere. And the DM did clearly the thing by screaming at his players and freaking out instead of having, you know, a conversation. Anyway, let's get to the next story. Two players found love. TLDR, two players really wanted to ERP, erotic roleplay with each other. DM shuts it down and we were accused of bullying one of them. Asked the DM. Alex, first horny player. Barry, second horny player. Cleo, IRL friend of Barry. Dan, has no bearing on the story, to be honest, he was just there. Myself. I feel bad for Dan. Dan just had to be there at the table, just came to play some D&D or what have you, and just have to just be there like this, suffering, silently probably, thinking, why did I do this? Why am I here? I could have just been at home right now playing video games. Getting to know you. We met in a Facebook group and migrated to a Discord. Everyone all seemed to vibe pretty well in and out of game. Someone specifically requested to be the DM. They like to play in some one-shots, but they had a homebrew idea. Last summer, we started with one shot to lead into the homebrew, and it went well. We did a session 0 before the longer campaign and went over like the hard passes. An RPG checklist, one player Alex was a hard no for in-character romance for the characters. Okay, that's fine. We're all in agreement on a fade to black if anyone else was down to clown. A few sessions in, we added a new player, Barry. He went back over the checklist again, and nothing had changed. Things were great, all our characters were vibing. One of our OG players, Cleo, asked Barry out for in-game, the word is important, I completely forgot it, date. They were IRL friends, so they thought it would be fun. The fake date went on for too many IRL hours. Cleo and DM kept trying to wrap it up, but Barry kept bringing up Alex. And how Cleo and the rest of us were treating Alex. Specifically, how we didn't ask him about his life story, and why none of us were interested in a romantic relationship with him. Well, we're in the middle of a coup. Personally, romance something isn't high on my list of middle of the bloody revolution. Myself and player Dan had gone to bed. We thought Alex went to sleep. Apparently, Alex stayed up all night until Barry and Cleo returned. We didn't find that out until the next session. And fade to black. The next session, well, was a session. We all ended up getting separated. Alex and Barry, of course, managed to get together in the end. Literally. They got somewhere safe and decided it was time and place to get it on. With the details. The DM immediately faded to black once hands started wandering, but they kept trying to describe things. The DM ended up muting them after progression was just not gonna happen. This did not sit well with Alex and Barry. We wouldn't find that out until the final and subsequent session. The final session. Spoilers, it wasn't a session. Alex and Barry hopped into voice and accused us of bullying Alex, specifically leaving Alex out of any flirting scenes. DM came prepared and went back with the checklist. A response, Alex did not want anyone to flirt with their characters and we all agreed to fade to black. Well, nobody ever asked Alex about their backstory. We did. We tried. Alex and I were from the same place. We had talked about being childhood friends, but Alex wasn't interested. Cleo and Dan had many one-on-one chats in character with Alex about their family. Alex never volunteered any information. If Alex doesn't want to talk about their backstory when people clearly are trying to get him like, hey, so where'd you come from? What are you doing? How'd you end up here? And Alex is like, I'm not telling, then you know what? That's Alex's fault. Alex clearly doesn't want to talk about their character, doesn't want to mention about the backstory. Look, listen, right? It is up to you as a player to talk about your backstory and to fill other players in on the backstory and let them get to know your character. When characters get to know each other, they have to share some things at some point. I get it. Sometimes you may make a character that is very cautious or has a difficult time opening up, but at some point you got to open up even a little bit. Right? Me, I have a terrible time opening up to people, but at least I'll mention to them the basics of where I'm from and what I used to do. I'm not gonna give them a whole life story until it comes to a point where I'm friends with someone, but I mean, you gotta give them something. You gotta give them anything. Alex and Barry kept going in circles. Not for much longer. The DM kicked them. The remainder of us sat there for a minute in confused silence. DM said there wasn't going to be a game that night. I get some people want different things from D&D, but I mean, if you want to go with like a more intimate thing with another player and you're both okay with it, when you both consent to it, do it in the DMs, not in public. Public is gross. We did indeed get an epilogue since Cleo was very curious what happened to the IRL friend. Barry refused to meet Cleo IRL after what we allegedly did to Alex. Barry went in on a whole tirade over text about the alleged bullying. Cleo pointed out, just like our DM had before, that Alex did not want to flirt with us. Barry doubled, maybe tripled at this point, down on how we didn't even try. Cleo's attempts to reiterate no means no, and Barry just ignored them. Cleo, Dan, myself, and the DM decided to take a break from the rest of the summer. We still chatted and what have you. Game picked back up in the fall, and the four of us have been playing ever since. Out of curiosity, I did check Barry's Instagram. It's mostly not safe for work art of Alex and Barry's characters. Looks like they're happy, so I mean, they found each other at least. Well, it looks like everything ended pretty okay. Barry and Alex found themselves, and I mean, two problem players found each other, especially being horn dogs together. Beautiful bliss, and they can have fun together, and the rest of the players can continue playing their game. It looks like they've been playing their game since, so hey, good on you. I've said it before, I'm perfectly okay with like loot stuff. Succubi girls, I love them. Anime succubi girls, I love them even more. Fantastic, love them. Oh, so good. You're playing with real people at your real table or virtual table. The least you can do is do the respectful thing and not do weird stuff, or keep the weird stuff to the DMs. How about that? Just keep it to the DMs. Being respectful to other players and to your table, whether it be IRL or virtual, is important. It's part of the important etiquette. If you can have the basics of etiquette, then nobody's gonna tolerate your nonsense at the table, right? And everybody agreed. Hey, no flirting, fade to black. And suddenly Alex decided to change their mind about that. I mean, maybe they were like, oh, well, Barry did that, and I kind of want to do that too. And it's fine. Listen, if you want to do that, you have DMs for that. But don't bring it to the table in front of everybody. That's just gross. Imagine there's a dinner table, and the entire player base, including the DM, are playing together or enjoying the dinner. That is the story, and they got two players over there in the corner right on top of the table fucking, and my mashed potatoes are ruined. Thanks, players. And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.